there? My meeting last night went to 12:30. Yeah, so Tarpon Springs, it started at 6 and it went to 12:30. Yeah, I've been in lots of them. Your brain doesn't really work after about 10:30, 11 o'clock, so you don't do your best work at that time of the night. I don't know why they continue the meetings because most people are gone, but I don't make those decisions. So.
This special meeting of the City of Madeira Beach Board of Commissioners is called to order July 15th, 2020 at 6 p.m. City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Hendricks?
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Here.
Commissioner Price? Here. Commissioner Hodges? Here. Commissioner Douthard? I'll let the record show that Commissioner Douthard is absent.
Public comment. Mr. Pricer, do you have any public comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 2 items for public comment. The first is coming from Mr. Richard Lewis to Mayor Hendricks, Commissioners, Mr. Daniels, Ms. Van Blargen. This concerns the identification of expenditure amounts in applicable agenda items. I have no doubt that all citizens desire to be informed of the cost of a planned contract or purchase, particularly in the amounts represented in the agenda. It would seem that identification of costs should be included in agenda items as a matter of routine policy in the public interest. This has generally been the policy in previous administrations, but as indicated by this agenda, it is by no means assured. The lack of inclusion only serves to imply deliberate obfuscation. I acknowledge that these amounts are contained in agenda packets, but they simply do not serve the need. There is no negative aspects associated with inclusion and suggest appropriate policy be established. On a related note, Madeira Beach Policy Handbook on Order of Business regarding the consent agenda indicates that, quote, awards for equipment, goods, or services already approved within the budget. In my view, this is unfortunate language, as the budget neither commits or approves. Although the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office contract would meet this criteria, the cost is not known at the time of budget approval, and this item has ordinarily, I believe, been considered as, quote, new business. Under the present agenda order of business, it would appear that this should be under 10 contracts/agreements. Thanks for your consideration. Dick Lewis, 561 Crystal Drive. And our final public comment sent in by email. It is, this one is from Rita DeCardi of 210 Medallion Boulevard in Madeira Beach. It is very upsetting when the city officials who are supposed to set examples in regards to public safety have ball tournaments where no one is social distancing and not one single mask that I could see. This is in wake of the city closing its doors during the beginning of the pandemic to protect the city employees, yet with the total cases and rise in death at an all-time high, you sponsor a ball league with no guidelines. Shame on you for not showing the community how much you care about them. Very disappointing considering you are here to do what's best for the community. No wonder Florida is a hot spot. End of comment. That's all the public comments we've received, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do you have any public comments?
Jeff Brooks, 425 150th Avenue. I just want to bring up the 2 subjects that I was here about last time, and that was the bed tax, that I don't see anything on an agenda item or the impact fees. And I'm just hoping that those are coming up in the near future.
Thank you. It's time for our public hearings. Mr. City Attorney, can you please read the first ordinance, item 4A?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, ordinance 2020-10, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, submitting to the electors of the City of Madeira Beach a proposed amendment to subparagraph E of City Charter Section 3.4, manner of holding elections, to provide that any candidate receiving the highest number of votes cast in an election for an office shall be elected to office, and that if two or more candidates receive an equal and highest number of votes for the same office, that those persons shall draw lots to determine who shall be elected to office, and by providing for an effective date hereof. That was a reading of ordinance 2020-10 by title only.
Thank you. Is there any discussion by the commission on this?
I have a point I'd like to make, and this is pretty much across the board on every one of these. If we turn to page 17 of 22 in our packet, there's the question that we're discussing, 2020-10, manner of holding elections. I just don't think this is written well. I don't see any reason, if I were a citizen of Madeira Beach, why I would vote yes on this. I think we need to include the fact that this is being proposed as a change to our charter because Pinellas County, who runs our elections, is dictating it. It looks like we just nilly-willy decided to do away with runoff. So I'm not sure if I was not an informed person, if I would vote yes on that. And if our goal is to get these things passed so that our charter is in line with the law, we should be saying that. Don't you think? I mean,
Commissioner Price, what page are you looking at? I'm sorry.
page 17 of 22.
Okay.
There's manner of holding elections.
Oh, okay.
Which is what this is all out of order, so it's difficult to deal with. But so that's 2020-10. And if you guys recall, the reason we're doing this, we're not having runoff elections. What we're doing is if somehow we come to an exact tie, we draw lots, is because Pinellas County will not do runoff elections for us, and they're the people that administer our elections. So if this is the way we're wording it, and I was sitting in my living room opening up my mail-in ballot, wouldn't see any reason to vote yes on this. I think we need to be a little more persuasive or explain. Because this is what they're going to see, right? City of Madeira Beach, number 3 charter amendment. This charter amendment would amend blah, 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 blah. Should the charter be amended, yes or no? I think there needs to be a sentence in there somewhere that says why we're even proposing this, or what the purpose, Even if we just write somewhere in here, due to changes by the Pinellas County election officials that preclude runoff, we have to.
Mr. City Attorney, I've got a quick question for you.
I could say this about every one of these, by the way.
Right. I kind of see where you're going with it because I didn't see it written out like that until just now again. So this would be the third reading. So we've already.
I know.
No. That's what I'm asking. So in principle, we've already approved the idea of this twice, not the actual wording of this, right?
This is the first time I've seen that wording.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
So this is the third time this ordinance is before you. The first 2 readings came with a provision in the title that reflected that voters would be voting on commissioners from the district in which they reside. And because that one did not pass at the last meeting, we had to revise this one. So we took out that sentence in this one, and that's why it's coming back to you, to make sure that there is no argument later that was a substantial change and that required a change.
Okay.
So to answer your question, this is exactly what had been requested the change to be made. We can talk about the language, of the actual questions later on when that ordinance comes up. I'd be happy to make some suggestions on that. We can change that language under 2020-17, but that does not require a change in the first ordinance that you've got before you. This is literally word for word as to what it would look like if it's done.
Okay.
The question can be revised. There are some guidelines. For example, the title can be no more than 15 words.
Right.
The language of the question can only be 75 words, and so we're constricted a little bit, but we can make those changes tonight based upon the direction.
Okay, and we don't have to start all over again. We don't have to read it 3 times again after, if we change the
It depends on
word.
how much of a change that we're gonna make.
Well, I think, and I'm not gonna speak for Commissioner Price, but I think what she's trying to say is, let's condense it a little bit, make it just kind of what we're trying to say. I think one of the things that our electorate got a little antsy about the last time, not only just the amount of referendums that were on the ballot, but the wording of the referendums. They were very confusing, and they didn't really lay out what we were looking to do. I personally, and I think Commissioner Price is on the same page as this, would like to make this as simplistic as possible. This is what we want. This is why we're doing it. Boom. If it's 2 sentences, rock on, let's move on, right? I mean, that's kind of what I would be thinking, but thank you.
Yeah, as long as we can tweak the language that I'm looking here, because it appears to me that in our packet, starting on page 16 of 22, there's number 1 charter amendment, page 17's got number 2 and number 3, and if this is the language, and we can change that language to at least add a sentence as to why we're doing it, I think we'll get these things passed as planned. Otherwise, we're doing this for naught.
I would like to provide a little bit of background, one of the reasons that is being changed. At the March 2019 election, there was a question on the ballot letting the supervisor of elections, the Pinellas County Canvassing Board canvass all City of Madeira Beach elections, and that passed. So they do not do runoffs.
Right.
We give the power to them to canvass all of them. So if we were to, we don't have our own election. We don't canvass our own election. It says that they will canvass all elections.
I'm fully aware of that. I mean, I know that. And why don't we say that? Why don't we give the voters a reason to vote yes? Here, it looks like we're just saying, hey, we're going to do a runoff.
Right.
We're not going to do runoffs now. We're going to draw lots.
Right.
Why don't we tell the voters why and give them a reason to say yes? That's all I'm saying. And that's true on every single one of these, except finally, we did it right. On page 20 of 22, we put it in there. This charter amendment would amend section blah, blah, to provide that are inconsistent with state law and shall be deleted. I mean, now we're telling the voters why we're making this change on question number 6. It's the first time I've seen the question, by the way. Yeah. So as long as we can add something, I mean, number 6, I mean, even that could be explained a little better, but at least it's in there to say we need to be consistent with state law and we're going to delete what's not. Then I think everybody's going to vote yes. Obviously, we want our charter to be lawful.
Well, basically all we need is, this is to bring us into compliance with supervisor of election regulations. Something on that line. That's all we need, right?
Something like that, yeah. Well, this last one, question number 6, is actually for a statute. And so that's what, so it says it. So finally, on page 20, when I read the question that's going to be put to the voters, here we say we're changing it and we're deleting language that's inconsistent with state law, which shall be deleted. Something like that needs to be in every one of these that it applies to, right? And even then, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but when we talk about changing the term from 2 years to 3, and we should put in there so that Madeira Beach does not have an election every single year, and for continuity of legislative leadership, or, you know, I mean, the reason why, I think, should be in there. Otherwise, people are thinking, oh, they're just adding another year to their terms. Yeah. And I think it should be clear that it does not apply until passed by the voters. I mean, you would think they'd know that, but that's all I'm saying.
Well,
When I
those
read
things
through
wouldn't
these,
apply
I
to
was-
us anyhow, not the sitting
Pardon
commission.
me?
Those wouldn't apply to the sitting commission anyhow.
Right, but I think you need to be clear, because it looks, somebody would look at that and say, oh, they just want to increase their terms. I mean, you gotta spoon feed people, in my opinion. Who's gonna sit there and on their couch and read through these? As I read through there, I saw very few reasons to answer yes. That's all I'm saying. So I'm for all of these, and I'm gonna vote for all of these, as long as we can tweak the actual question, which I guess we can.
We can do when we get to that agenda item. Right now, we're 2 ordinances before that one, and so we could do the first 2 ordinances, and when we get to that one, we could make the changes to that one instead of kind of doing it backwards. So my suggestion is just going through the agenda. When we get to the 3rd one, let's go through them one by one.
Okay.
And we'll make the changes then, and then we'll determine whether or not we think it's substantial, which would require, again, another public hearing. So, but that's part of what we're doing. We're trying to get it all done before the election, supervisor election deadline occurs.
And these that can also be brought out in the publication of these, an explanation of why we're doing them, and the town hall.
We're gonna have the town hall meetings, obviously, we're gonna be beating this drum.
Right.
But this is the operative document. These questions in the last few pages of our packet need to say what we mean. So, unfortunately, the first ordinance to come up, 2020-10, ends up being the question number 3 in the ordinances, or in the charter amendment change. So I guess we'll kind of flip back and forth. But let's go through them one by one, and we'll, you know, I'm happy to vote yes on it. I just don't like the way the questions are phrased.
The only question I have on the first one is, towards the end, if 2 or more candidates receive an equal and highest number of votes for the same office, that those persons shall draw lots to determine who shall be elected to office. What is drawing lots? Are we talking rock, paper, scissors, or what?
That's straight out of the Florida statute.
What is it?
It could be a lot of different things. It could be, for example, names in a hat. It could be longest straw. Whatever it is.
Oh, really?
So, for example, in the 90s.
It could be rock, paper, scissors.
In Bel Air Beach, what we did was straws.
Mm-hmm.
And that determined who was going to be the commissioner there. So that's what it means. Yeah, it's not rock,
Dueling is illegal now,
It's
Doug.
not All right, I've said my piece. Let's go in
Okay.
order then.
Is there any public comment? Is there a motion?
I make a motion to pass ordinance 2020-10, proposed charter amendment, subparagraph E of city charter, section 3.4.
I'll second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes. Will the city attorney please read ordinance, the ordinance 2020-16?
Mayor Commissioners, ordinance 2020-16, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, calling for a general municipal election on the November 3rd, 2020, for placing 6 charter amendments on the ballot for the Madeira Beach voters to decide on, providing for publication, authorizing election expenditures, identifying the Pinellas County Canvassing Board as the canvassing board for the November 3rd, 2020 general election, authorizing for a runoff election if necessary, providing for repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith to the extent of such conflict, and providing for an effective date. That was a reading of ordinance 2020-16 by title only.
Is there any discussion by the commission?
I frankly don't understand which question this applies to.
It's not, it doesn't apply to any of the questions. It's just setting the fact that you're going to have an election. It's going to be on November 3rd.
Okay.
That you're going to do it in compliance with your charter and your code, that you're going to do it at these precincts that are listed on that particular date.
Okay,
That's really what this is doing.
Got it.
It's just basically setting the ground rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any public,
I'll make a motion
is there any public let me ask for public comment.
Yeah, let's do
Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Okay, Commissioner Price.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 2020-16.
Is there a second?
Second.
City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Price,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Andrews.
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks.
Yes. Will the city attorney please read the next ordinance, 2020-17?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners. Ordinance 2020-17, an ordinance of the City of Mid-Area Beach, Florida, providing for ballot titles, ballot questions, and text for proposed referendum questions to be placed on November 3rd, 2020 election ballot, providing for amendments to the charter that the qualifying period for candidates seeking office of mayor or district commissioner shall be the first full 2 weeks in December, that any district commissioner who desires to become a candidate for the office of mayor shall resign his or her office 1 week before the qualifying period, that any candidate receiving the highest number of votes cast in an election for an office shall be elected to office, and that if 2 or more candidates receive an equal and highest number of votes for the same office, that those persons shall draw lots to determine who shall be elected to office, that the term of office for district commissioners be changed from 2 to 3 years, and that the term of office for mayor be changed from 3 to 4 years, that the effective date of the new terms of office shall be March 9, 2021 for district commissioners and March 14, 2023 for the mayor, that independent audit provisions that are inconsistent with state law shall be deleted, providing for the election date, providing for coordination with the supervisor of elections, providing effective dates, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict. That was a reading of ordinance 2020-17 by title only.
Is there any discussion by the commission? Is there any public comment? City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Okay, so this is where we need to go through these questions one by one
Okay.
and make the changes that we want to make before we actually adopt this. So if we want to start with question number 1, which is on page 16 of 22, this is regarding the qualifying period for candidates seeking office of mayor or district commissioner. And so I'd like to address that. And maybe Clara could give us the background on that, since all these things happened before I was here, the reasons why it was requested.
The supervisor of elections has to abide by state law when the military ballots have to go out, the ballots to the military. And they were on like pins and needles because we exceeded the time when our qualifying period ended. They were already supposed to have this stuff in the mail like 2 weeks before. So they need our information for the ballot no later than December the 31st, which our qualifying period doesn't end to the second Friday in January, the way it's written now in the charter. So we have no choice but to move it, change it. And they also had to change it for this year for March 2020 election.
Mr. Mayor,
Insurance.
Yes.
this is Bob. I just wanted to suggest maybe some language that, due to the requirements of the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections, this change is necessary. And I don't know if that's too simplistic, but it probably explains why we're doing it.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, Bob.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I think that's all we
as
need, really.
mandated by our canvassing board, Pinellas County, we need to make these changes, so.
That probably
Now, the
sounds
big
more
question, yeah.
The simpler the better.
So my suggestion that we add after the word December, the following words: in order to meet the requirements of the supervisor of elections. So it would read, this charter amendment would amend subparagraph A of section 3.3 of the charter to provide that the qualifying period for candidates seeking the office of mayor or district commissioner be the first full 2 weeks in December in order to meet the requirements of the supervisor of elections. Should the charter be amended, yes or no?
And where are you inserting that other language?
Right at the end of the word December, in order to meet the requirements of the supervisor of elections.
Okay.
That's good by me.
That'll do it.
Okay, since we have a consensus on that, let me move to question number 2. And this is with regard to district commissioner resignation. This, and the question would read, this charter amendment would amend subparagraph B of section 3.3 of the charter to provide that any district commissioner who desires to become a candidate for the office of mayor shall resign his or her office 1 week before the qualifying period. And Claire, what was the basis for that requested change?
That timeline also changed with the qualifying period change.
So if we added the same language to the end of this sentence, would that solve the, or that further explain the reasons why we're doing it?
Or it could say because the qualifying period changed to line up with the new qualifying period, if it should change, if it should pass.
I like the consistency.
Yeah, I do too.
Attorney, city attorney, I think,
Okay,
yeah, we just add it right to the end, it'll just seem like
same thing.
that it's, okay, these are cleanup charter amendments, not anything that we're, running around looking to do. I like trying to keep it as consistent as possible.
I just want to make sure that the supervisor of elections, because this is totally different. This says when somebody has to resign their seat before running for another office. We had 90 days, now we want to say 7. I don't think they mandated that.
In there, their deadline to do it would be past our deadline for the ballot language, to put their name on the
I don't know
ballot.
how it would be passed, because our charter says 90 days, like, 90 days before. Was it 90 days before the election or 90 days before the qualifying period?
Let me look it up.
And is it 1 week before the qualifying period begins or ends?
Yeah, if I'd
Well,
had
it used
that-
to be 90 days before the election, or 60
Okay.
days prior to the election.
60 days,
I'm sorry.
okay.
And
No,
now
I
it's
said 90.
And the
1 week
60
before the
days
qualifying
was the
period.
last day of qualifying period, to put the name on the ballot.
I understand, okay, yes. In that case, it would be consistent to put that same language in.
So it's
Okay.
before the qualifying period begins, not ends.
Correct.
That's right, it's before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what we're changing. We don't want.
Correct.
So I've got a question. These are going up for a vote for charter amendments, and they're required. So what happens if they don't pass?
If they don't pass, then the charter remains the way it reads right now.
And so we're in a conflict with supervisor of election and state law.
Well, in conflict with the supervisor elections, because what they do is they take the election date and they move backwards all the deadlines that they think are appropriate to meet what their obligations are. And so, yes, they don't necessarily meet up with the 24 municipalities in Pinellas County. And this is why you're trying to correct that, to give yourselves that opportunity to meet their requirements, not to put so much pressure on them.
We would probably follow this anyway, to be honest with you. We'd have to.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's a consensus on that, Mayor, can I move on to number 3?
Can we just,
Yes.
before we just insert in order to meet the, can we put the word begins? Can we say, Mayor shall resign his or her seat 1 week before the qualifying period begins,
Yeah.
comma, in order to meet? That way, it's perfectly clear.
Okay, I've got
All
that
right.
note.
Okay.
So Charter Amendment number 3, it reads, this charter amendment would amend subparagraph E of section 3.4 of the charter to provide that district commissioners be elected from the electors residing in such district, that any candidate receiving the highest number of votes in the votes cast in the election for the office shall be elected to office, and that if 2 or more candidates receive an equal number of votes for the same office, that those persons shall draw lots to determine who shall be elected from office. So this question already needs to be modified because of the fact
Yeah.
it talks about being elected from the district. So we need to strike out the words that district commissioners be elected from the electors residing in such district, because that was not passed last meeting. So it should read, this charter amendment would amend subparagraph E of section 3.4 of the charter to provide that any candidate receiving the highest number of votes cast in an election for the office, or an office, shall be elected to office. And that
Period. Right?
Well,
And then can we go?
it doesn't say that in the way you've adopted it. I mean, if you want to
Okay.
separate the sentences, but the way that you adopted that ordinance, this is the way it flows.
Okay.
Yeah. And that if 2 or more candidates receive an equal and highest number of votes for the same office, that those persons shall draw lots to determine who shall be elected to office.
Yeah, I think that reads fine with the sentence taken out, or the one line taken out of there. I think that reads fine. You don't have to say in accordance with, because that's probably not in accordance with anything other than our charter, right?
Yeah, it has to come out. So, but otherwise, if that is okay, then I'll move on to the next question.
With the, in order to meet the requirements, right? This is actually state law, isn't it? That you draw lots, or is it the, no, this is the Pinellas County. So we would want,
No,
again.
it's statutory.
Oh, it is statutory,
Yeah.
okay. So to meet Florida statute, or to be compliant with Florida statute. So we do want that language in there.
So we can add in then, in order to meet the requirements
Of Florida law. Want to make it easy.
In order to comply with Florida statute.
in order I'm sorry, I have to word out here, to meet the requirements of Florida state statute.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Charter question number 4. It reads, and this is for terms of office for district commissioners and mayor. This charter amendment would amend subparagraph B of section 2.2 of the charter to change the term of office for district commissioners from 2 to 3 years and change the term of office for mayor from 3 to 4 years.
Now, we can or cannot, since this isn't mandated, this is something that came up from us. If we want to add something in there, we're going to have to come up with what came to my head was, there's an election every single year, and we don't get a lot done because it's
How about to avoid annual
to avoid
annual elections?
Elections.
Or how about the cost of annual elections?
That would be great. I mean, that's very helpful. It'll save us thousands. That's good. But
So what?
it's not just the cost, it's also to get some continuity.
What date would, if this passes, what date would it take place, Clara?
We have that in the, it was in the ordinance, it's the second Tuesday in March,
Okay,
Next year.
2021.
so it would, yeah. But it
Actually,
would-
The ninth,
my
I
point
think.
is, it would not affect my term, or any commissioner up here. It would be,
It'll be seat 3 and 4.
District 3 and District 4.
Those would be the first two districts.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
the ordinance becomes effective on November 3rd when it passes, okay?
Correct.
But it doesn't apply to the commissioners until those dates come to play that are listed in the ordinance.
Correct.
Is there some way we can stipulate that so that,
So people don't think this is a power grab.
yeah.
Okay, so we were going to add in to avoid the cost of annual elections and provide for continuity.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know when we were talking about doing this, one of the reasons was we wanted some continuity of leadership, or legislative leadership. It takes so long to get these things passed, a lot of them get lost.
Yeah, if they're hearing that, though, I think we just stick with the cost issue.
Maybe stick with the cost.
We can talk about, when we do town halls, we can talk about why we're doing it for the.
Yeah, okay.
I think putting that it's just gonna make it more wordy and
I think
a little
so,
bit more
too.
confusing. So I think just use the cost issue, Tom. I think that's probably best. And it's my opinion, though. That's, you know.
I like that, because there's no real easy way to kind of explain that other one.
Okay, so I'm just going to add after the words 3 to 4 years to avoid the cost of annual elections. Okay, thank you.
And should we make it clear that this does not apply to the terms of the current commissioners?
If you want, I can add another sentence in there to address that.
Would that be a material change?
So, you know, there's no clear-cut answer as to how many words you can add, or it's kind of a touchy-feely type thing.
Okay.
So
this was
the less
always-
we add, the better that I'm going to feel that we're not making a substantial change.
Okay.
So you can definitely address that in the information that you provide to the public, either through your email, your website, your town hall meetings. You can do all that way.
Well, because we're not changing anything, we're just making a statement of.
We're changing the question.
We're changing the question, okay. All right, then we'll just put the cost in.
Okay, item number 5, Charter Amendment number 5 then, relating to terms of office for district commissioners and mayor. The question would read, this charter amendment would amend subparagraph A of section 3.4 of the charter to change the term of office for district commissioners from 2 to 3 years and change the term of office for mayor to 3 to 4 years. And I can add that same language in there.
Yep.
The only reason that we're seeing this twice is because it's in 2 different provisions in your charter.
So we couldn't combine them.
You don't want to combine them.
Okay.
Okay, Mayor, I'm going to move on to number 6 then.
Okay.
So number 6 deals with the independent audit, and the question is to read, this charter amendment would amend section 4.10 of the charter to provide that provisions of section 4.10 that are inconsistent with state law shall be deleted, should the charter be amended. So that
Finally, we did it.
Okay,
Okay, now I feel better about the question.
Okay, so that we went through all the questions then. I will make those changes. And so we just need a motion to approve as amended, after you've received input from the public on those changes.
On, ordinance 2020-17. Okay.
Yes, Mayor, I'm sorry.
Is there any, Public discussion on this? Public comments? Will the clerk please call the roll?
We need
Make a motion.
Nope.
Yeah, I'll
Sorry
make a
about that.
motion to approve ordinance 2020-17 as amended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Andrews?
Yes.
Commissioner Price?
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Hendricks?
Yes. This meeting is adjourned at 6:40 PM.
Thanks for your help, everyone. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.